Hi, how's it going, everybody? This is Cameron Lowe with the Lowdown Podcast, and we are here to break down the championship round of NFL football. So, Austin, you want to take it away from here? Let's talk about that Washington Philly game.
Are you making me go first because you know that I totally blew the money line there?
Well, I mean, no one could predict the over and under to hit that high. No one expected Philadelphia to cover the number just themselves. So, I think you can get a pass for that.
I think it was a great game if you're an Eagles fan, a tough one if you're a Commanders fan. And obviously, there was a little bit of wind out there. We did have one missed kick. Hey, at least there was one. And the weather may or may not have been an involvement there, but it did not matter. In that game, we had talked about it before that the ground game was going to be huge for the Eagles, scoring the 55 points that they did, and they did run all over that defense. But it really was the turnovers that were a big reason why Washington was not able to really get momentum going. And so it was just a really shocking game, Cam, with 55 points on the Eagles' end. And you and I had a conversation about it. You have some really interesting statistics when we talk about the run game itself from Philadelphia.
Yes, the run game itself is just insane if you look at what they were able to do. So they had one, two, three, four, five, six different people touch the ball just on the ground. Will Shipley, 4 carries, 77 yards. Behind Saquon's 15 carries for 118 yards, 3 scores. Jalen Hurts touched it 10 times, 16 yards, 3 touchdowns, probably all on tush pushes. Even Goddard had 13 yards, Gainwell 8, Kenny Pickett none, -3. But just giving the ball to that many people and trusting them to run and get yards behind that offensive line, it just shows the kind of dominance that they have up front, and it is crazy to watch.
And I just have to give you props too, because you actually had Philly laying on the 6, and obviously they had a lot more they laid on Washington. But I do give props to you because when we had this discussion last week, I was like, I don't know, I think it's going to be a closer game than that, and you were like, Nah, I think the Eagles are going to take care of it.
I thought it was going to be closer than this, but just the way they run the ball, I could see them getting a score late, them being up 7 points and then getting an additional 7. I thought it'd be a 13, 14 point game, but they completely blew the doors off. And the thing that you mentioned that hurt the most was the turnovers. The time of possession, it was only 30 seconds apart. Eagles only had the ball 30 seconds more than Washington did, but Washington turned the ball over 4 times, 3 of them being on fumbles. And when you're playing a dominating team in your division, you can't give them the ball 4 times and expect to win a football game. Not in the NFC championship round. Props to Washington for getting this far. I think the 4 turnovers is just they're a young team. You know, Jaden Daniels still did his thing, 255 yards through the air, a touchdown, another touchdown on the ground with 48 yards rushing. They did their thing, but Eagles are just a dominating football team, and they took advantage of the turnovers. They ran the ball down their throat, and they had an excellent game plan.
Yeah, so I'll give you props on that game. Now, if we flip to the other game we talked about, we both missed. And I think in the back of our minds, we knew this was going to happen, but like we have family from the Buffalo area. So, we're like, maybe Buffalo can do it. Finally they can get over the hump. Josh Allen looked so good this year. They always call him Superman. I mean, I get it. He throws the ball well, he passes the ball well. But in this game, Patrick Mahomes got the W.
He did, and he got the best of the whole situation, as he always does in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes is just a playoff killer, man. Ice runs through his veins. Him and that whole Kansas City Chiefs organization. I know a lot of people are watching. They're rooting against them. They're tired of seeing them win. But there's a point in time where you got to celebrate the victories and look at what they're doing. And what they're doing is just amazing. They're dominating year in, year out, resting their players well, hitting full stride in the playoffs every single year. It doesn't matter what you do to them in the regular season. That's their preseason.
I do want to give you props though, because you did say that a big part of this game was going to be I know we both said high scoring, but you talked about the rushing yards per quarterback, and you almost hit it within a couple of yards.
Yeah, I said that Allen and Mahomes would both have 50 rushing yards. Mahomes had 42, and Allen had 39, which Allen averages 53 rushing yards a game, which is just insane for, the position he plays and the type of style he plays. He's not a run first quarterback, but he just goes and gets those yards.
And that's a quarterback you're talking about?
That's a quarterback. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
You'd think this would be coming from going back to the Eagles real quick, like the Eagles where they have this dominant offensive line, you're getting that kind of rushing yards. But no, Josh Allen is just running over people. He doesn't care. And it's really a bummer just to kind of obviously love what Kansas City does. They're a great team, but it's tough watching this for Josh Allen. He can't get over that hump so far. I think he will eventually, but he's just one of those dynamic quarterbacks, one of the best we've seen in this era of quarterbacks, and it's tough to see. Yeah, as I said before, this Superman not be able to get over the hump. And again, all credit to Kansas City with that, but also credit to you on calling those rushing yards. Now, I do want to talk just, if you don't mind. We had a conversation before, and I want to let the watchers, listeners, viewers in on this conversation we had. You were talking to me about the Kansas City dynasty. There's a really interesting story that you were talking to me about with Andy Reid trusting in his players. Did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so I think one thing that Kansas City doesn't get enough credit for is their front office work. And we've seen Andy Reid have this kind of pull in his front office, even when he was in Philadelphia, when he brought in Michael Vick, someone we all know what Michael Vick did. He got in trouble. He was in prison, signed with Andy Reid and had a resurgence. Andy Reid trusts his players and he gives people a lot of chances. When people write him off, he's like, let's see what we can do with his talent and our coaching. So the most recent story of superstardom is Trey Smith. He is the right guard right now. He's pending free agency after this year. But in 2020, the scariest thing a person could have is blood clots due to the whole vaccine scare, COVID. It was scary for people. People were very uncertain of how health was going to be affecting players and all this stuff. So we had this excellent guard, Trey Smith, coming out of college. And he played 2 seasons after he was diagnosed with these blood clots in his lungs, but no teams wanted to give him a chance. He was a first-round talent, fell all the way to the 6th round. Andy Reid drafted him in the 6th round, and in these 4 years has developed him to, an all-star right guard to hold down that offensive line. And there's several stories of this on the Kansas City Chiefs, even the drafting of Travis Kelce. He called up because he drafted Jason Kelce in Philadelphia. He called up Jason and asked him what kind of version of Travis Kelce is he going to get, And so his connection with these players before they're even on the roster and just player development, getting that kind of production from a 6th round, having faith in your players, I think that's what excels Kansas City to this. We see other teams where they have written off players come together, B plus, all excel and gel together. And I think that's what the Kansas City has been doing, and it helps when you have the best quarterback in the league as well.
Yeah, and I don't foresee this dynasty going away anytime soon. Obviously, you bring up a really good example, but they've been hitting in their drafts. They bring back guys where Isaiah Pacheco was hurt earlier this year. Kareem Hunt comes back after spending some time with Kansas City in earlier years. He brings in DeAndre Hopkins, has trust. Last year, Mecole Hardman. So it really is a trust thing that Andy Reid has with former players. He does his research. He cares about his players. And I think first and foremost, the most successful dynasties, at least when you look at Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, it just dawned on me. We're talking about the big game in a few weeks. It's going to be Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs against the former team he coached and the Philadelphia Eagles.
For the second time in 4 years.
Second time in 4 years that he's going to have an opportunity to beat his former team, saying, you didn't want to keep me? Well, here's what I got for you. And no disrespect to Philadelphia whatsoever. We're talking about 2 really good teams that have made it to the final game. So super
really good front offices too.
Yeah.
One more pick I love, because I got to get it out there on record before he blows up and emerges as a star. Last year, my favorite person in the draft was safety from Washington State, Jaden Hicks.
And I remember you saying that.
Out of all, I think he's going to be the next Brian Branch. He's a little raw, but the way he covers the middle of the field, the deep depth, like as a safety, man, you guys, if you have not seen him play, look, he is a fantastic ball player. So watch him. Anyone who's watching the Super Bowl, just keep your eyes out on Jaden Hicks and see if you can see the kind of projection I have for him. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. It's awesome to see.
And this is why we're doing this podcast now, because you and I have had so many conversations where you have these takes, or I've said something. More often than not, it's you having these takes and you end up being right. So we're like, man, we just got to start a podcast. So Cameron knows, people know what Cameron is predicting is going to be right. And so listen, when he has these takes, y'all better listen. And we have some good takes we're going to be doing in the next few episodes. We've got a mock draft that Cam and I worked on together. It's going to be our first official mock draft. Fun times where it's the off season and we get to kind of makeshift these teams as if we are GMs. Again, we talked about it in our first episode, and then where quarterbacks are going to land. So Cam, I'm super excited about this, especially with your past being able to guess things right.
I do you remember who I said was going to be the top free agent signing last year? Before the hype.
Oh, are we talking Van Ginkel?
We are. That he's one of the big reasons I wanted to start this is because I had that outlandish take of saying, as you in the group chat, the football group chat, I was saying,
yeah,
I wanted your team to get him because I thought he'd fit your team. I said, this guy, man, he's insane. He plays off ball edge, can hide in any spot. And it's those things I like to look for, not necessarily the production on the field, but like the marriage between coaches and players. And seeing Van Ginkel, I thought him with Aaron Glenn would have been awesome too.
Yeah.
But same thing with Jaden Hicks. Once I saw him go to that Spagnuolo defense, I was like, now I know he's going to mold into a star, So when you have talent, it goes to a team that needs that talent with the coaching staff. That's where you can kind of make, these projections.
So we missed on our picks a little bit for last weekend, but I have a good feeling we're going to hit some when we do the mock draft in the quarterback signings. I'm super excited for that. That's going to be our next couple of episodes on our podcast. Cameron, that's it. Episode 3 is done. We've got 2 more on docket. We've got a lot more planning ahead. This is exciting.
Yeah, so much more content to come. Finally getting in the rhythm of things. Appreciate everybody who's been watching so far. And if you guys have any comments, questions, anything, we read the comments, we listen, we respond.
There's 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. 3 of the most important things you could do on a YouTube video. And of course, you can follow us on social right now. We have Instagram. We're going to be working on getting a couple more social media platforms going too, but it's at Lowdown Podcast. And we're going to be shooting some short form content for that too. So you'll be able to get us anywhere. Of course, our long form stuff on YouTube. And then if you just want to show your family, friends, our short content and our authenticity, that's what it's all about, having fun and predicting some football. So super excited.
Super excited. And I can't wait for you guys to see what we have coming in store for you guys. So much more cool stuff coming.
We'll see ya.